I'm flying with Iberia today on their A350 in business class from Madrid all the way over the Atlantic to Bogotá. I'll check out what the lounge has to offer, as well as the onboard service, dining, and sleeping. Let's get this journey started at Madrid Airport Terminal 4. Iberia have dedicated check-in desks for business class passengers, and even though they don't have a first class product, they also have a separate lane for those with One World Emerald status. After making my way through the fast-track security lane, I took the train to the satellite terminal, T4S. The lounge entrance is weirdly located in the middle of the duty-free maze, so keep an eye out for it when walking through. Once inside, I dropped my bag off in the locker room and went to check out what the lounge had to offer. The lounge itself is long and thin, with floor-to-ceiling windows all around the edge, providing great views of the ramp. There's a self-serve buffet section at both ends of the lounge with hot and cold options. An a la carte restaurant is also tucked away at the end, although for some reason this only operates from 9 PM onwards. Instead, I went to the complete other end of the lounge to visit the staffed bar to order a drink. There's no champagne here, only cava, but I'll allow it since we're in Spain. Cheers. The lounge has toilets which were relatively clean. There are also private shower rooms available on request with a rainfall shower, toilet, and sink. The rest area has beds with curtains for privacy, although these were roped off during my time here. For those that can't rest, there's a desk for working on your laptop with power sockets, or a corner with a TV playing the news. And for those that don't want to work, there's a games area with 2 Xboxes. Otherwise, there's plenty more seating around the lounge, which I got comfortable in, had one more glass of cava, and enjoyed the views until my flight was ready for boarding. It was time to go to the gate, and I boarded as part of Priority Group 1 on the front jet bridge and onto today's A350-900. I was at the back of the business class cabin today in seat 8A. The seat comes with the amenity kit, pillow, duvet and mattress, which we'll check out later. But for now, I got settled into my home for the next 10.5 hours. The crew offered me a pre-departure glass of cava, cheers again, and then came back to take my meal order from the menu. It was time to push back, so I fastened the 3-point seatbelt and enjoyed the views as we approached the runway and ascended into the Spanish skies. Once we reached altitude, the crew passed through the cabin with a hot towel to freshen up. The meal service commenced not long after, with some olives and roasted almonds being served first, alongside another glass of cava and still water. For starters, I had the octopus marinated with paprika and lemon over sauteed peppers and a black olive tapenada on the side. This tasted great. Next up for mains, I went for the grilled king prawns over a tomato sauce bed with sauteed spinach and basmati rice. This course was less good. The rice gave me flashbacks of dry school canteen food. And for dessert, my choice was the hazelnut and chocolate cake. Once my table was cleared, the crew offered me a small dark chocolate bar to finish things off. Let's check out what's inside the Iberia amenity kit. An eye mask, hand cream, lip balm, face mist, socks, toothpaste, a comb, a toothbrush, and earplugs. I'd say it's a pretty decent business class amenity kit. On my way to the toilets, I found a small self-serve section in the front galley with drinks and snacks for business class passengers. There are 2 toilets at the front of the cabin, which are pretty standard plain toilets. Nothing special here, but it does the job. Back at my seat, I decided to make up the bed for some much needed sleep. I reclined the seat all the way flat, added the mattress cover, and threw over the blanket. Having just driven 6 hours from the south of Spain to make this flight, I was completely exhausted by this point, so the cabin lights being dimmed came at the perfect time. Good night. After having slept for most of the flight, we were approaching the South American continent. The lack of air nozzles was definitely noticeable on this flight, and it did get fairly warm while sleeping. Anyway, the ambient lighting was slowly raised, which I think made the cabin look pretty cool. And soon enough, it was time for the breakfast service. By the time the crew had reached my row, I was told there weren't any breakfast options left, and I'd be served a moussaka instead. Putting aside how unappetizing this looked, I'm not a fan of aubergine at all, so I didn't touch this. Instead, I asked the crew for another glass of cava and said not to worry about it. To the crew's credit, they came back a few minutes later and were very apologetic and offered me the breakfast option from economy, a ham and cheese sandwich. This honestly tasted a lot better, and they even came back to plate it, which was a nice gesture, so big thumbs up to the crew for this. Just before we come into land, let's do a quick seat tour to wrap up the video. The colour scheme of the seat is a bit bland, but otherwise it's fairly comfortable. The seat controls and IFE remote are to the side. Speaking of IFE, mine completely froze up on 2 separate occasions during my flight and had to be restarted by the crew. International power and USB-A charging are by the side table, with 2 small storage shelves above. An adjustable reading light and a coat hook. The tray table can be rotated and pulled down from in front to eat or do some work. Below the seat is the cubby hole, and below that is a bit of space to stash your shoes. The aisle seats are a bit more exposed, so I'd recommend a true window seat like mine, although you can still easily see your seat neighbours. And that's pretty much it. We were coming into land, so let's talk about the cost as I put my seatbelt back on. I paid for a return ticket, Madrid to Bogotá and back with Iberia, which can range from as high as £4,000 to as low as £1,300, depending on dates. Luckily for me, I managed to grab my tickets for £1,300. Overall, I'd say Iberia is a pretty average business class offering. The lounge was decent, if not a bit busy, although it would definitely be a big boost if they had the a la carte restaurant open all day. On board, the seat is fine, but nothing particularly stands out, and I think Iberia could really add a bit of colour somewhere. The service from the crew was great, but things like not having meal options available from their home hub of Madrid, and the IFE freezing up multiple times brings down the experience. I will say for a 10+ hour flight, the price was reasonable, but I couldn't see myself paying any more for this. I'll have to fly the brand new Iberia business class seat with a door in the future, but until then, let me know what you think of this product in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time.